I want to share a little bit with you today about authenticity and vulnerability. Over the weekend, starting Friday night, I was at a conference in Orlando. And it was a John Maxwell event, and it was fun because I got to see so many close friendships that I've built up over the last 5, 6, 7 years of my personal growth. As I'm standing there, my friend Brian walks up. Brian and I got to know each other about 1.5 years ago at an event that I spoke at, he spoke at. And he comes and he says, Tyler, I want to share something with you. I'm like, all right, I'm all ears. What do you got? He goes, I just remember when we were at that event in Charleston. I don't remember anything you talked about. And I'm thinking, okay, all right, where's this going? But I can tell he's being genuine. He's being authentic. And he says, Tyler, what I left and I think about today is how willing you were to share some of the hurtful things in your life, some of the just being you and showing up and being authentic and vulnerable. As Brian and I finished that conversation, it sank in. And I realized this, that our vulnerability, our authenticity is our greatest strength. It's not what we thought about in years past is you never let them see you sweat, right? That idea that you can't be vulnerable because if you're vulnerable, they're just going to take advantage of you, run all over you. A little bit later in the event, actually, the next day, I was talking to my friend Mike and Tristan, who joined me at the event. And we're talking about just the value of being in a room of 90 people that are tremendously successful, way more successful than me, right? These are amazing best-selling authors, people that are, Grammy-winning artists to major business builders. And as Mike and I are talking and Tristan were interacting, and we're talking about the value of the group, 90 people, right? And just the authenticity and the vulnerability, the willingness to come and admit faults, admit insecurities, admit fears in a conversation, admit some of the darkest days of our life, how it could have ruined us. And a group of people we maybe don't know that well. And as we're sitting there, the host of the event, Chad, he's asking people to share, what have they taken from it? And we hear from people that are sharing absolute rock bottom times of their life and how this is the first time in a couple years they've actually been at a public event and how it's absolutely transformed them. As Chad is asking for a few more shares, I look over to my friend Mike. I said, Mike, you need to go share what we're talking about. See, here's what I lived in that moment, and this is where I'm going to be authentic and vulnerable. I won't lie to you. In this room of peers, I wanted to have value. My insecurity was just racing inside of me. Tyler, stand up. Go ask Chad for the mic. Share about authenticity and vulnerability. Share about the conversation with Brian. Share about how magical it is. And I fought that insecurity. I said, no. I'm going to let Mike share. Mike goes up, grabs a microphone, speaks in front of people. It's just a small group environment. He shares a story about his son, Royce. How his son had conjured up, put a stool in their pantry one day. The stool was there. The next day, it's still there. They go to bed that night. All of a sudden, Mike hears something out in the kitchen. Confused, he walks out there and he finds his little son, 2-3-year-old son, Royce, in the pantry, sitting down on the stool, face covered in chocolate. He asks him, hey, what you doing? Nothing. Ultimately confront him about eating chocolate. And this is where Mike shared a story that is so powerful. When we deny, when we aren't authentic and vulnerable, we don't have impact. It's a barrier that holds us back. This is the lesson that I learned from that moment. My insecurity was screaming, look to be valued, but asking Mike to share. Mike comes, sits down. Brian turns and looks at me and said, oh, Tyler, that's what we were talking about. See, my impact was made more through Mike sharing the story, Brian having that revelation, and everyone else in the room. If I would have talked, Brian would have been like, yeah, I already knew that. Mike, yeah, I would already knew that. But I realized that influencing others came through impact and not letting my insecurity overwhelm me. See, we all fight with insecurity. To me, it's one of the greatest barriers in all of leadership is when we relent to insecurity and it shows up in other ways. These armors build up around us. That's what I took away from the event. And I took away the opportunity to share that with those guys and be vulnerable myself to say, hey, I deal with this as I'm sitting here sharing with you, as I'll share with everyone, as I share in later platforms. See, when we're authentic and vulnerable, our impact far exceeds the words that we can share. Because when we're authentic and vulnerable, and we don't let denial overwhelm us, our impact flows through and goes through others. It's magnified, it's multiplied, it becomes exponential. That's how we can improve the life of others, by choosing to be authentic and vulnerable.